Hello, my love, and welcome back to the Energy Expansion Podcast. I am exceptionally excited that you're here today because we're going to be talking about one of my all-time favorite things, which is faith and how we can choose faith over fear. And I really, truly believe that this is one of the most powerful and necessary conversations that we can have because this literally applies to every single area of life and business. So this episode is for you if you have ever felt stuck in the what ifs, finding yourself spinning. If you're craving more clarity, but you can't seem to find it. If you have a big dream that's asking you to trust more deeply than ever before. And I have a feeling that speaks to every single person that is listening. I know that choosing faith and trust is a part of my daily journey in life and business. I feel like I have chosen a life path and the kind of work that is a little unconventional. I don't know a lot of people. I didn't grow up around a lot of people who have walked the path that I'm on. And so it has required an immense amount of trust and faith in myself, trust and faith in my inner wisdom, my own intuition, and for sure, trust and faith in God. So today I'm going to walk you through what faith actually means, how fear can be really sneaky. It can come in and it can paralyze us, but it doesn't have to. When it does, we can pinpoint that and we can choose something different for ourselves and what it looks like to practically and tangibly walk by faith. We're also going to talk about ways that you can actually build and strengthen that muscle, your trust muscle, your faith muscle, so that you can take bold, aligned action even when the path isn't clear. So let's get into it. What does faith really mean? Take a moment to think about that because I'm going to talk about this through my own lens, my own worldview, my own perspectives. We're not necessarily looking at the dictionary definition of faith. And I also want to create just a moment of space for you to think about, what does faith mean to you? So faith is not just wishful thinking or hoping for the best, although it can feel like it has elements of that. Faith is trusting in what you can't yet see, hear, or touch. And it's showing up as if you know with absolute certainty that it's already happening, that whatever it is that you desire, and I really truly believe that it's important to pray prayers that are along the lines of, God, allow my desires to be the desires that you have for me. A friend of mine a long time ago, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were having a conversation about another friend of ours who was going through something really, really heart-wrenching. And I told her, I'm really praying that there's this specific outcome and it happens like this and it looks like that. And it was coming from a really, truly heart-centered place. But this one very wise friend of mine said, what if we just pray that God's will be done? Yes, you can have your outcomes and you can wish and you can hope for the best, but more than anything, God's plan is already written, and we can trust that God's plan is better than anything that we could ever desire. So I want to weave that in here because, yes, I want what I want. And also, when I don't get what I want, I have taught myself to cultivate a deep-rooted trust that God's plan is better than mine. A really small and seemingly silly example is we had plans this past weekend. My daughters were really excited. They were looking forward to this outing and this adventure with a friend and 2 birthday parties. So crazy. The 2 birthday parties were rescheduled, so we couldn't go to them. one of my daughters got very, very sick. And so she wasn't able to go do the adventure she was supposed to with my older daughter. Everything got all jumbled and there were tears. There were big tears. And I kept saying, I wonder how God is going to use this. And I don't think that my daughters loved that. But that's just how I roll, is when things don't go the way that I want them to, or there's a major element of the unexpected, I like to get really curious. And there's even this playful energy. Yes, even when I don't get what I want, or when the thing that I'm given or what happens is something I don't like, I let it be really light, even a little bit playful. And I'll ask questions like, I wonder how God is going to use this. Or I trust that the hand of the Holy Spirit is working on this. And you better believe that that totally transforms the way that I relate to things in a really helpful and empowering way. And to complete the story from this weekend, what would you know? By the time our weekend ended, by the time we landed on Sunday night, we could not have dreamt up a better or more perfect experience. It wasn't what we had planned. It wasn't necessarily what they wanted, but I kept saying to them and myself, I think God is going to use this in a really fun way. Let's stay open to that. And so we can take that same lens and that same mindset, and we can apply it to anything, any aspect of our life, of our business, of the things, the places, and the circumstances that matter most to us. So faith is that really deep knowing that something bigger is at play, that something is guiding you, that you're not alone. As you know, I like to use the term God. Maybe you prefer spirit, source, universe, life, whatever resonates for you. So again, just for the sake of really bringing you into my world and where faith plays a role and has played a role, oh my gosh, there's so many different stories. And I just shared one about this past weekend, but there's another story that I love to share, and it has to do with a moment really early on in my business. It was like the first 18 to 24 months of my business, and things were going okay. They weren't going well. They definitely were not exceptional. Nothing was mind-blowing about it. I had a couple clients here and there, and honestly, it didn't feel good. I felt like I was working so hard and had very little to show for it. I absolutely loved the clients I was working with, but I was pouring so much time and energy, and I had 2 little babies, and we needed my business to be generating way more money than it was. And I remember going to this event that a trusted friend, a dear friend of mine, had invited me to. And she said, hey, I think that this is going to be not only a great event for you, not only really motivating in the community, but you really need to meet the people who are hosting this event. So I got childcare. I got everything all set up. I go to this event, and she was absolutely right. I want to say it was a 2-day event. And it filled me up in all of the ways, so many different ways. It was essentially 2 coaches and a room of over 100 people. And as the event starts winding down, they invite you. It was a free event, but they invited you to join them, to sign up for a 6-month coaching program. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I want this. I need this. And they're up on this fancy stage with this fancy presentation, and they're talking about everything that's included. And I'm like, yup, I want that. That's for me. And then they get to the slide where it's the pricing. And I won't go through the whole spiel. It was very salesy in a good way. Like, it's $100,000 in value. I'm exaggerating a little bit. It was like $50,000 in value. That's not an exaggeration. And, we normally sell it for $24,000, but right now you can get it for just $12,000, and there's more. And the minute I heard $12,000, I literally shrunk in my seat and thought to myself, you can't afford this. You can't afford this. That was the first thought that crossed my mind. And I'm very aware at this moment that that was my ego. That was fear. That was a part of me trying to keep me safe. And right after I heard the voice say, you can't afford this, I heard another voice come through, and I swear that this was the voice of God. That's the only way I can describe it. And it was a whisper, and it was gentle, and I heard it from my heart, not my head. And it said, "You actually can't afford not to do this." And then I perked up in my seat a little bit, and I thought, this is really expensive. This is going to require a lot of money that I don't have at the moment. But yeah, I can't afford not to do this. This was a major leap of faith. This was a decision. This was a yes that literally made absolutely no sense. Like, logically, it made no sense. If we were going to base this off of logic and reason, this was actually the dumbest thing that I could do at that point. Why? Because the program was $12,000 and my business the previous year had generated a whopping $11,000. So I really did not have the money for this, but everything in me knew that this was for me, not from a place of grasping or desperation energy. It came from a place of faith. It came from a place of trust. And so I'll save the story for another day. Some of you might know where we got the cash to do that. Took me a while to pay back the money, but I did. And so I said yes, and I handed over the $12,000, and it ended up being the absolute best decision. And all I can say is it was faith. It was the voice of God and me trusting it. Right? And so in that moment, fear would have said, be realistic. This is too much money. Wait until you're ready. What if it's a waste and it doesn't work? And faith is the voice that says, but what if it does? What if this is exactly what you've been waiting for? That is, oh my gosh, one of my many stories of faith. So let's really quickly talk about faith and the body, faith and our nervous system. Because fear, right, we're choosing faith over fear. Fear doesn't just live in the mind, although it does, right? It does live in the mind. Fear has a voice. I think that there are so many times, more often than not, when fear is leading and we're not even consciously aware of it. But fear also lives in our unconscious, our subconscious mind, which I believe to be our body, our nervous system. And fear is what's in charge of our most primitive responses, which is fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So when you're on the edge of something big, your nervous system literally doesn't know the difference between danger, like life and death, versus growth and getting outside of your comfort zone. We have a whole other podcast episode that we did not very long ago, all about fear and resistance. If this is piquing your interest and you haven't listened to that episode yet, give yourself the gift of that. So when that fear is coming up, how do we tap into faith? How can we regulate our nervous system to know what's actually true? And this is actually what I want to call spiritual regulation, which helps with nervous system regulation. And there are so many different ways to do this. My go-to tools, number one is prayer. I think I forget this, and I think it's really easy for us to get this in general, but we were not meant to do this thing called life alone. Of course, there are people we can reach out to, and community and friendship and partnership and team are all important. And so you could ask for help. You could speak your needs aloud to the people in your life. That's a really great way to regulate your nervous system, right? Speak the truth about what's happening and ask so that your needs can be met. But where I was going with that was the power of prayer. Just last week, I don't remember exactly what I was doing, but I remember this overwhelming fear and anxiety washing over me. And within like 30 seconds of feeling it, I realized I don't have to carry this. This doesn't have to be mine. And I said, God, please take this. God, take this, take this, take this, take this, take this, take this, take this. Take this fear, take this anxiety from me. And oh my gosh, it made a world of a difference for me. So prayer can be one of those things. music, for me specifically, worship music can really shift my atmosphere and help me let go, help me be in a form of prayer and worship through the music. Breath work and grounding, anything that's going to get us into our body. Oh my goodness, breath work has been one of my favorite tools over the last couple of years, and it's something that I do on a very regular basis. I want to say 5 out of 7 days a week. I will either lead myself through a simple breath work practice, or I have a breathwork membership that I'll tap into. Also, stillness, getting really quiet, letting yourself come back to the moment of now so that you can hear your own inner voice. Anything that's going to allow you to disconnect from the noise and the distraction of the external world, which is often feeding you information and stimulus that's not actually helpful. So getting quiet is going to allow you to hear the truth of your own intuition, your own inner wisdom, your heart, and the voice of God. Your body can become your greatest ally when it comes to tapping into faith, especially when you learn what tools help you feel regulated, allow you to be in the present moment, allow you to be tapped into divine truth. Now let's get a bit more practical. So, number one, how can we start to strengthen our faith muscle? There are so many different ways, but I'm going to share these 5 with you. So, number one, deciding in advance who you're going to be in any given moment. Who are you becoming? This is a really big part of what I teach. This is rooted in understanding and shifting your identity. Your identity is everything. So a lot of times what happens is if we don't decide this in advance, if we just let our unconscious run the show, what ends up happening is we allow our past to continually be what is creating the moment of now, and the moment of now ends up being what we create in the future. And so it's this perpetual cycle. There is something known, I did not invent this, but I love to talk about it. It's a really great frame of reference. I read about this for the very first time in a book called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. I love this book. I have read many books about money, many books about mindset, many books about money mindset, all of the above. And this was actually one of the very first ones I picked up. And to this day, it is still my favorite. And so T. Harv Eker talks about this. Some really big names in the coaching industry talk about this, but it's a pattern that we're tapped into pretty much all of the time. And it's an acronym that is TFAR. So TFAR. If you're going to take notes, I highly recommend you jot this one down. You might want to write TFAR like vertically down your notebook. So T stands for thoughts and beliefs. F is feelings and emotions. So we're going from like the mind, the head, down into the heart, into the body. And those feed one another. So our thoughts and our beliefs feed our emotions, and then our emotions and our feelings also feed our thoughts and beliefs. So it's just like oscillating between the two. I used to think that everything started in the mind. I actually do not believe that anymore, but I think that one can trigger the other. So back and forth, back and forth. The A represents actions, and the R stands for results. So what does this mean? Our thoughts and beliefs can trigger our feelings and our emotions, and also the other way around. Our feelings and our emotions can trigger our thoughts and beliefs. The thing I want you to get here is that our internal world, first and foremost, is what then impacts and creates and shapes and defines everything in our external reality. Okay? I want you to get that. You see how the first 2 pieces of this formula, of this acronym, of this pattern literally have to do with what's happening in our inner world, in our head, in our heart, and in our body. Based on what's happening internally, that then determines what kind of actions are you going to take? Or maybe in some cases, are you not going to take? Are you going to take actions from a place of fear, from a place of pain, from a place of running away from what you don't want? Or are you taking actions from a place of your bigness, your greatness, your belief in yourself, ultimately from a place of faith, right? Tap into those two different possibilities and notice how they can take you in two completely opposite directions. And then, kind of common sense, but based on the actions you take or lack of actions, that's then going to determine your results and what you, like the outcomes that you experience. And so deciding who you're becoming, who you want to be, is what's going to allow you, right, to have the thoughts, beliefs, feelings, and emotions that you actually truly desire, right? So if you have the identity of, I am a woman who is led by God. I am a woman who deeply trusts herself. I am a woman who is tapped in, tuned in, and turned all the way up to the frequency of faith. And I think thoughts and beliefs that reflect that. I then feel feelings and emotions right now, and my body is buzzing as I'm saying these words out loud, and there's this literal expansion happening within me. I'm curious if you feel that within your own body. I hope that you do. You're then going to take very different actions than if you're letting a past version of you continually create some pattern, some outcome that you don't actually want. So being anchored in the identity of a woman who is tapped into faith, who trusts herself, who trusts God, and who trusts the perfection of the way that her life is unfolding, who believes that everything is happening in her favor, you better believe that the actions and results that that version of you is going to get is next freaking level. And I want that for you. So number one is decide in advance who you're going to be, because your identity is everything. Number two is our mind, kind of coming back to this formula, our mind, our subconscious is constantly looking for evidence. Okay. And here's what I know for sure. You have evidence that things in life, if they're not currently working for you right now, they have worked out really beautifully in the past. So I want you to write down as many moments. I want you to create an exhaustive list of all of the times when you believed that something good was going to happen and something good happened. When you were tapped in to the frequency of faith and it served you. Times when really beautiful and unexpected things happened. The more you can illuminate those, the more you allow yourself to dwell on those and remember those, the greater the case you're building for all of those. The more you're able to see the miracles, the blessings, the opportunity, the divine timing, everything that got you to where you are, and then you can amplify that moving forward. So looking back on those moments of life and collecting evidence of the goodness, proving how powerful faith, trust, self-love are, is going to be another way to help you build that muscle. Another one is stop outsourcing your answers and your clarity. And I mean this with love, because for a really long time, I turned to everybody in my life except for myself. I was like seeking endless advice. I wanted validation. I wanted to check in and run things by not one, not two, but like at least 3 to 5 people. And then what ended up happening was I found myself in even more doubt, confusion, and overwhelm than when I started. So another way to really strengthen this muscle of trust and faith is to start getting quiet. We talked about stillness a little while ago, and allow yourself to go inward. Allow yourself to get really attuned with, what does yes feel like in your body? What does no feel like? What is the sound, the flavor of your own voice? When you're tuned into the voice and the volume of your own intuition, and more importantly, the voice of God, what does that sound like? What does that feel like? And the more you can practice this, the better. You can do this in stillness. You can do this in your journal. What is God trying to show me right now? What is my intuition wanting to tell me? What does spirit or life want me to know right now, want me to know about this? The more you can do that, the more you can start sourcing your clarity, your inspiration, your answers from yourself and from spirit, the better. This is going to dramatically improve your entire life experience. And then riding off of the coattails of that, I want to share with you how you can start practicing listening to your body. One of my absolute favorite speakers, authors, thought leaders, her name is Danielle Laporte, and she talks about how the experience of what is true and right for you, and I say that really intentionally and mindfully, because what is true and right for you isn't necessarily what's true and right for me or for your best friend or for your partner. Is what is true and right for you, what is most aligned, is going to feel light in your body. It's going to feel like expansion in your body. It's going to feel like peace. It's going to feel like peace. And then often, what is a no for you, what is actually not meant for you, is going to feel heavy in your body. It's going to feel dense. It's going to feel contracted. You're not going to feel inspired in the slightest, right? Where when it's a yes, you're going to feel lit up. And the important thing to note here is something can be right for you. In fact, a lot of times, if you're following the calling that's been put on your life, the divine calling for you and your life's work, it's probably gonna feel scary, babe. There's gonna be fear there, but it's gonna be a different kind of fear, not like a turn around and run away because this is so horrible. It's gonna feel like a pinging of excitement. It's gonna feel, I like to say there's that lean in energy, a little bit of like a squeal. I don't know about this, but you can sense on the other end of that what's on the other side is bigger and better than anything you ever could have imagined. What's yes for you, if you think about it again, is going to feel like expansion. What does expansion feel like? It feels like stretching. And stretching can be uncomfortable. Stretching means that you're going to get outside of your comfort zone. It means that you're going to step out of the unknown, right? Or I should say, you're going to step into the unknown. And the unknown is a really powerful place to be because the unknown is where you have to be. It's where you find yourself if you want to create something that's never existed. Fear is what's going to keep you comfortable. Fear is going to keep you in the known, and you're going to find yourself continually creating more of the same. And I don't know about you, but I don't want decades upon decades of the same. I want new. I want big. I want growth. I want healing. I want expansion. I want transformation. And I feel like that's the case for you. So number 4 is letting that feeling of peace, of lightness, and of expansion be your spiritual green light. We're going to lean into that. And the last thing I want you to keep in mind when it comes to strengthening this faith muscle is the importance of taking action every single day, showing up in the ways that feel most aligned for you. And again, there are going to be many days, if you're anything like me and the incredible women that I lead, where that feels deeply uncomfortable. And that's part of it. You typically need to move. You need to step forward before you feel truly ready, because it's your movement that creates the miracles. It's your boldness that creates the breakthroughs, and that requires that you take action. And the more you do that, the more you step into kind of going back to the beginning of this, the more you step into and solidify the identity that you're building, the more evidence you see that it is safe for you to trust yourself. It's safe for you to trust God. It's safe for you to tap into the faith frequency. It becomes easier and easier for you to stop outsourcing clarity and answers and instead go inward. It becomes more natural for you to be in a state of constant expansion. Our universe is constantly expanding, and you are a part of that. You are meant for constant expansion. Sometimes might be a little faster than others. It's going to look different in different seasons, right? But that stepping into the unknown starts to feel more and more familiar, and it gets easier and easier. And then it's this beautiful faith frequency cycle that creates itself. So I am so incredibly excited for you. A few more things I want to share is that when it comes to choosing faith over fear, there are going to be moments, even for me, yes, on a regular basis, like the faith frequency queen herself, self-proclaimed, sometimes that fear gets really loud, and that's okay. Fear is part of the human experience. Again, I cannot recommend listening to our fear and resistance episode enough. It is pure gold. So fear doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It actually means you're probably doing a lot of things right. It means that you're growing. It means that you're changing. It means that you're transforming. It means that you're healing. It means that you're expanding. It means that you're moving in the right direction, right? So what do we do when the fear gets really loud? Number one is name it and normalize it. It's okay. You have the fear doesn't have you, right? You have the fear for a moment. You have the power. You have the ability to transform any situation, any way you're feeling. It's not the other way around. So just remember, this is just fear. This is part of the human condition. This doesn't actually have to mean anything. This isn't divinely true. I also like to ask myself, what would God have me know about this? If fear is just a temporary experience, what's actually true about this? What's actually true about me? What's actually true about the future? Those are some of my favorite. And then coming back to your tools, I notice that when I'm getting out of the practice of my daily routines, habits, and rituals, if I go a couple of days without journaling, which has not happened in a long time, I'm on day 261 of journaling at the end of every day. Really proud to say this is the longest I've ever been consistent with anything in my entire life. But in moments where I slip away from my prayer practice, or if like I said, breath work is so powerful for me. If I go more than a week without doing breath work, I can start to feel it. I can start to forget who I am and what's true, and the voice of fear gets really loud. So come back to your spiritual regulation tools, your nervous system regulation tools. Another one is lean into community. Be really mindful of your environment. Be around other women who are tapped in and tuned into their greatness and a possibility and are not afraid to dream really big. If you don't have a community like that, please reach out to me immediately so I can get you plugged into mine, okay? And the last thing is coming back to that piece of the identity, asking, tapping into, visualizing, thinking about, what would my future self do? Remember when we were talking about tools for strengthening that faith muscle, and the first one was identity? Remembering that version of you, remembering what thoughts does she think? What beliefs does she believe? What are the feelings and emotions that are her baseline, that are really running the show of her reality and keeping her motivated? And tapping back into that is going to be a game changer. So I am really, really excited for you. And I cannot wait to hear about all of the ways that up until this point, you have chosen faith over fear and how you're going to do that moving forward as a result of being here and giving yourself the gift of this episode. Remember that your faith is a living, breathing relationship, and it grows and it strengthens the more you nurture it, the more that you spend time with it, the more that you're tapped in, tuned into what is divinely true for you. I love you so much, and I cannot wait to see you on the next episode.